Wondering what's next in your business or personal life? Welcome to Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, a podcast dedicated to helping you with all of life's challenges, discoveries, and opportunities. Whether you're seeking a new career, retirement, or simply wanting to make an impact in your community or the world. Join Jen Plessis and her guests as they explore how to start, what to do when you're in the thick of a change or growth, and how to leave a mark in this world after breaking through your next achievement. You are moments away from the aha you've been seeking.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this episode. I am so excited today to introduce my guest, Mitchell Levy. And I had the great opportunity of meeting you, Mitchell, at Secret Knock in 2021. And, we just had some lunch together and just kind of hit it off. And I said, hey, you need to be on my show. And here we are. I'm so excited. And little
so
did
cool. It's so cool. You can meet somebody and hey, we need you.
I know, isn't that crazy? Isn't that great? Well, I kind of walk around with my antennas up all the time, looking for great stories and people that can really add a lot of value, which you're going to talk about today, about how we learned about value not being necessarily the right thing. So I'm really excited to learn that. One of the reasons I love doing podcasts is I learn so much, and I'm a life learner. So let me introduce you just real quickly. First of all, Mitchell is a global credibility expert. So we're going to talk about credibility today. He's a two-time TEDx speaker, an international best-selling author of over 60 books. And he has a Credibility Nation membership community, which I think is really cool. Actually, you and I talked about it briefly, and then I forgot about it until I was looking at your bio and said, wait a minute, I don't know if I hopped onto that community or not. So you're going to have to tell us how we can get on that. He is an accomplished entrepreneur. He coaches people. He helps people with strategic consulting for hundreds and hundreds of people that have been on NASDAQ and you name it. And, I'm sure that as we're talking here, he will provide the credibility for himself so that I don't have to use a bio to do it. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
That sounds great. Okay, so let's start with the big question. Why is credibility so important?
It's one of those, the answer to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is the right answer. It's the answer to life, universe, and everything. It is who we are. It is how we come across. It is our character and other people's perceptions of our character. Without credibility, you have no customers, no business, no friends.
Yeah, that's true. And I think another word that comes up is loyalty, right? In credibility. To me, that's a big word too. Not only character, but some loyalty in there too, especially as it relates to friends. Yeah.
Loyalty is interesting. I'll give some more thought to this afterwards. I've never thought about loyalty and credibility. I think what happens, a outcome of truly being a credible human is that you surround yourself with people who are loyal to you. If the definition of loyalty is simply, if you do something that somebody doesn't like, they're still your friend. They just may not like it. And you've had an open conversation about why they didn't like it.
Yeah. That's a really good, perspective. That's definitely a good perspective on that. I want to just ask you from a sales perspective, since you just brought up sales for a second. How does credibility fit in from your perspective under the know, like, and trust? Now, we all know this in sales. People know they want to work with people they know that they like and that they trust. And I've always been the person that says, it's not enough that they know who you are, what you do, right? We go to a networking event and someone says, well, they know what I do, right? They like me because they talk to me at the networking event. So they obviously must trust me. So how come I'm not getting business? But what I've always felt is the know is knowing who you are, the character that you were just talking about, right? So tell us a little bit about how that credibility fits into entrepreneurs and salespeople, right? In really being able to establish that know, like, and trust. What do they have to do differently to walk through that path? And I'm sure you're going to talk about value here.
I might talk about value. We may talk about clarity. It's interesting. If that is your definition of credibility, then we're significantly more aligned than many people are. So I interviewed 500 thought leaders on credibility. Now it's over 600. And there's some amazing statistics. So I'll just put a seed in there of things that people don't do. Let's come back to clarity. To answer your question, what bubbled out of the interviews is the phrase know, like, and trust. And what's happened since deploying this phrase in this framework for the last year, I've now recently changed it. So let me tell you what the updated definition of credibility is, because in the dictionary, the definition of credibility is the quality in which you're trusted.
Okay.
The proper definition is the quality that you're trusted, known, and liked. So each one of those, there are 10 skills associated with trust, know, and like. And so, under trust, it is really being authentic, having your external integrity, being vulnerable, and being coachable. Now, you asked about being known. So let's say you meet somebody in a networking group, like you and I met each other, but we were introduced by a mutual friend. So trust was immediately there.
Yes.
But if we sat down at the table together, because it was secret knock, trust is almost immediately there. What happens in our conversation is we get to know each other.
Yes.
Right. And as you get to know somebody, they build upon the trust. As you get to know somebody, you build upon the like. On the being known, there are also 4 elements associated with known. First is being a servant leader, having the desire to serve others, having the intent and commitment to do the right thing. And integrity is the only skill that appears twice. Under being known, it's your internal integrity.
Yeah.
So that was funny about the research is the word integrity came up twice of the 10 skills. I didn't really know why it was there twice until about 3 months ago. I just sort of woke up one morning. I go, wait a second. Under being trusted, it's your external integrity. Under being known, it's your internal integrity. So to answer your question, as you're getting to know somebody, are they a servant leader? Do they have the right intent and commitment to do the right thing? Do they have internal integrity? What you're really doing there is seeing whether or not their value system, whether or not their character is in line with the value system and character that you relate to. It doesn't have to be yours, but it has to be someone that you find credible.
Yeah.
And while we're here, I'm going to give you the trick for being liked. It's a really easy trick. It's kind of nice. There are 2 elements associated with being liked.
Okay.
One is I big picture. I call it sharing your stage. The term I came up with was cred dust.
Yes.
And that is sharing the ideas, thoughts, and actions of others. Because when you share somebody else's ideas, thoughts, and actions, what happens is you're sprinkling magic dust on them, on you, on your audience. Everybody wins.
You're edifying.
So one aspect, cool. So one aspect of being liked is sharing the stage. The other, very simple, it's showing respect. And so what came out of the interview is it's showing respect by showing up when you show up. Come early, come prepared, come with your heart. So I know we technically started at the top of the hour. When you check your email, I was here 10 minutes before. Only because we're live show, I just was sitting here waiting for things to happen, right?
Yeah.
And what I could tell from our conversation, you did research on me ahead of time. Do you know how many I've been on in the last 2 years? Over 300 podcasts. Do you know how many people they don't pronounce your name properly? They know nothing about you. They say, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And so you learn, by the way, as a good interviewer, just to help guide the host to be successful, but it does show a lack of disrespect. And subsequently, I won't recommend other people to be on their shows. I may not recommend them in their service because they're not showing up. They didn't make themselves likable to me.
Yeah.
Because they didn't show me the respect.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really good. And thank you, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, I make it a point to do this, to do some research about everybody. Because, that's that curiosity you and I were talking about, in the green room, is making sure that I'm present. And then I'm giving that, definitely, I didn't think about it as being respect, but I guess it is, giving people the respect and making sure that I'm present. I love that you're talking about integrity. That happens to be a core value of me personally and a core value of my practice. And so I love hearing that, because those are two core values that, I live by. And we talk about it in our family all the time. My daughter will call me and I'll go, "Hey, honey, what's up?" And she'll say, "Integrity, mom, integrity." And I go, "Oh boy, what happened?" She goes, "You don't want to know what happened. I'm just going to say integrity." So
that's nice.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
so what I was
word.
curious about, given that you use that word a lot, what I'm curious about is when I tell people now that integrity really is two components, at least in terms of credibility. It's the external integrity. So it's how people see you externally, but internally, do you cheat on your spouse? Do you cheat on your diet? Do you stay true to yourself?
Well, I did during Christmas.
And we've seen,
I did during Christmas. I cheated on my
diet. Well, I think you get permission during Christmas time, because we all do that.
And there's my integrity telling you the truth.
Yeah. But I think what's interesting is how many with now open communications, how many politicians, they may have an amazing record externally in terms of integrity, but they felt it was okay to cheat on their spouse.
Yeah.
Right. And that just completely toppled them. And so we need to take into consideration that for humans, there really are two forms of integrity.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. And thank you so much for opening my eyes on it. Hopefully those that are listening, their eyes are being opened on it too. Because, I know people that are speakers and that are coaches and mentors, and, that integrity is on the outside, from a stage, but it's not there behind the scenes. And, and I go, "Oh, I don't know," and that's really a third level, right? There's the public, then there's the community, and then there's the private. And I think all of those have to align tremendously. So tell us how credibility, and maybe because you've interviewed so many people, is there a statistic that can share that can show us that when you increase your credibility, it increases your income, it increases your emotional intelligence? Are there any statistics that talk about how, choosing, increasing that awareness and choosing to up-level your credibility and be on time and do what you say you're going to do, follow through, all of those things, that it has a direct correlation to an increase in production, an increase in relationships, happiness, anything like that?
I'm going to have to, I love your question, because it leads towards probably the next level survey that I need to do. Because the surveys that I did was more empirically, where is the world today? Right. So I could give you a statistic that'll blow your mind away. It always does for me. The statistics of what is increased success, that is, I'm going to put that on I'm sure there's stuff out there, but I don't have anything that I could quote off the top of my head. So let me change the topic or the question to, Mitchell, what shocked you from your interviews?
There you go. Okay.
And what shocked me were two things. One, now I defined coming late, because I was doing a live show, and I still do a live show. So I defined coming late as coming within 3 minutes. Because, if you're a host, you get a little bit of panicked. What ended up happening is not only did 23% of people come within 3 minutes, 4% of now 614 people, 4% came after the hour.
Yeah.
So just think about this for a second. You're being interviewed by the global credibility expert on your credibility. You think it's credible to come after the hour for a live show. That's kind of a duh.
Yeah.
Now, Jen, this is the one that really blows me away. 98% of those people I interviewed could not articulate who they served and the pain point they served in 10 words or less. 98% of people cannot articulate, I call it a CPop, your customer point of pain, but another way to put it, 98% of people cannot articulate their purpose in 10 words or less.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think about that in the sales world, right? Whether you're an entrepreneur, whatever you do, in the sales world, if you can't articulate who you're serving, then how can, I always say this too, is like, it's part of my clarity piece in my, what I do, but, is that if you're selling everything to everybody, you're selling nothing to no one, right? And not being clear on what your brand is, what your message is, so that you can attract clients rather than chase them. And it's amazing. I remember at a BNI meeting several years ago, the chiropractor got up and said, "I'm looking for anyone who has a back." Right. And we all went, well, that helps. For sure, right? Ha ha. Because it wasn't definitive enough. We all have multitudes of things that we do, but we have specialties that we have. He's a chiropractor. Of course, we know that's what he does. But he also has doTERRA oils, and he also does a nutrition class, and he also does, a vibration machine, to help you with bone density, and some kind of weird stretching machine. And he does all this stuff. And I don't know what course to go down, and I think that reduces his credibility because I don't understand what he does. And therefore he can't be the influencer that he is intending to be. And so while he'll crack a joke, and that's no pun intended, he'll crack a joke and say, "I'm just looking."
I think there was a pun intended there somewhere.
Right. Well, he'll say, "I'm just looking for anybody with a back." And actually I turned off and said, "Well, that's too many people. Be more specific." So help us with that. Help us with that piece when you're saying, okay, 10 words or less. Do you have a formula? Do you have a formula?
I have a formula. Happy to share.
There we go. Excellent. So we don't have that same issue.
Yeah, no, it's really fascinating. It goes back to the trust, know, and like. Mm-hmm. So let's say you stand up at a BNI meeting, or you stand up at a place where nobody knows you.
Yeah.
And you get 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. You want to capture their intention in the first 1 to 3 seconds.
Yeah.
In the first 1 to 3 seconds. And by the way, here's important. Don't use the word I or we.
Yes.
Right. Because when you start off now I'm going to call it a CPop, stands for either customer point of pain, customer point of pleasure, customer point of purpose. The CPop is 10 words or less. It starts off with who you serve. Now you want to make it somewhere between 1 to 2 words, maybe 3. But many people say speakers, authors, coaches, consultants. Well, you're already over 10 words, right? And you're once again, all things to all people. And then the second part of it typically is, what is the primary pain point you address? Mm-hmm. Now, it could be, for some people, it could be aspirational. So I'm going to give you, I have a really big overarching. My big overarching is humans that want to be seen as credible. Mm-hmm. That's more of a pain point and aspirational point. I have 2 issues with that. It's really broad. That means billions of people need to be affected.
Right.
And 2, that the definition of credibility, people don't quite understand.
Right.
So I have a working one I use now, right? My working one is 4 words long. Businesses that feel invisible.
Ooh, yeah. And want to become invincible.
Well, I'm going to stop at, so I love that, by the way. I'm going to stop at, because you want the ooh.
Yeah.
Right? You think of when you articulate a CPop, you're presenting a playground that you play in.
Yeah.
Now, Jen, we didn't have this when at Secret Knock, because we didn't have enough time. And I'm not sure if I had articulated my current CPop as is. You can be, if you're hearing that, you're one of 3 people. Right? You're either ooh, wait, that's me. I might want to play in that playground. In which case you're going to say, tell me more.
Tell me more.
It could be, oh, I know people. As a matter of fact, we have such correlation or intersection of clients we work with.
Right.
I know people I want to recommend to you. Once again, tell me more. Or you don't give a shit. Right. Now, it doesn't mean you don't care about me. It just means you don't care about that playground.
Yeah. Not my pain, not my pleasure. Yeah.
So if you could say in 1 second or 2 seconds, something like businesses that feel invisible, the next obvious question that you're going to say is tell me more. And then I'll answer the tell me more. That is the tell me more might be your standard value proposition.
Yeah.
The tell me more is what you're doing is you're getting permission to then talk for another minute.
Right.
About
actually, how you serve, right? The continuing.
Yeah. And actually, let me share mine, because you've already heard, for those that are listening, you've already heard it. So let me say, somebody says to me, Mitchell, tell me more. What I'll say is, there's typically 2 different reasons why businesses feel invisible. One, they're playing in the wrong playground. All their clients are on LinkedIn, and some marketing expert gave them a cookie cutter approach, and they're playing on TikTok, even though none of their clients are there.
Right.
Now, let me give you the second one. Having interviewed over 500 thought leaders on credibility, 98% cannot articulate their purpose. So even those thought leaders I interviewed who are well-known, they too are invisible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then if there's an interest there, I then will say, well, what do I do? And I've got a series of programs that help address that. But what I want to be able to do is each step along the way, build a little bit more credibility, because I've been so incredibly clear on who it is that we serve. And then they could decide whether or not the solutions I have, or I'd be happy to spread some cred dust by recommending other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're saying. It brings me back to a conversation that I had. It reminds me, how when I'm at home now, right? So COVID, so I'm making sure my puppy, I can't use the actual words, but when you ask your dog if they want to go to WALK, right? If I do, we're going to have problems here in a minute.
If you say that out loud.
Yeah, no, don't use the word. Okay. And, when they do, their ears go, huh? What? And that's what you're talking about, is having that ooh moment, that, huh? I want more. Tell me more. When are we going to do it? How can we do it? Right. And it reminds me of, saying that, when that, now the second part of what you said, and I didn't write this down. Normally you see me taking notes. It's because I'm following up with questions here.
I appreciate that.
And, you said that they're playing in the wrong thing. Yeah. So this kind of reminds me about sales, is that if your sales aren't where that you want them to be, you're talking to the wrong people, or you're saying the wrong thing, right? To the right people. Talking to the wrong people or saying the wrong thing to the right people.
Right.
And I think what do you think about that? You're going to say something.
I love the way you articulate words in such a way that a small amount of words can come out of your mouth and a series of a concatenated of pictures will be drawn. Right. So I'm just to say yes, and it comes down to every situation's different in terms of who you're speaking with, why you're speaking it, how you were introduced, how much time they have. And each step along the way, if it's never the right amount of time, you want to be less than what they expect in terms of sharing what you're doing and providing more than they would have expected.
Yes.
And I'm just talking from a sales perspective.
Yeah, I love that.
From a human perspective, you want the consistency. I don't know if loyalty is an interesting word for me. Once again, I'll have to continue to think that through. I'll just say,
looking at it. Yeah.
You want the consistency so that people know if they're going to recommend you, if they're in category 2, you've met somebody and you're the perfect fit, because if you got 4 words, by the way, you're going to remember, oh yeah, Mitchell, businesses that feel invisible. Wait, there must be they need their CPop and whatever else, Mitchell, right? So what happens is you want to make sure that you are consistent and that you reinforce who you are and what you do, not just synchronously when you're talking to people, but asynchronously when they Google your name, right? When they get to your website, when they get to your social media, and you present a different image than what they recommend, I won't recommend you because I'm feeling that you're not showing up credibly.
Yeah. And I know that you, have looked at over 100,000 LinkedIn profiles. And of course, when I read that, I was like, oh gosh, I know he's going to look at mine. I know there's going to be problems there. I just know it. And it's so sad because it's not a credibility. Well, maybe it is. You, in your eyes, it's a credibility thing. Me, I'm getting there, right? Because when COVID happened, I was doing random acts of marketing. Let's be honest. I was out speaking all over the country, right? And I would be in a plane and they would say, hey, we're delayed. And I go, well, maybe I should do a video. And so I would do a video. Hey, I'm sitting on a plane, right? Random acts of everything. And so I always say I got caught with my panties down, when COVID came, because I said, oh, well, now I have to focus on all this. So it's getting there. It's taking time, but I'm working on it. I am working on it. So it always scares me when you say that. But I want to go back to, because you were just talking about that value. You were just starting to touch on that value proposition. And one of the things that you say is that we were taught wrong. We were taught, give the value proposition. And I have to tell you, I ask people that I coach, what's your value proposition? And they don't really know what it is. And, this is the same as, what do you do for people? Or they'll say to me, I want to provide value to people. And I go, okay, well, that's good. What is it that you want? What is this value you want to provide? Well, I don't know what it is. I just want to provide value. So let's talk about this. So where do we go wrong in this value proposition? Do we introduce it too soon? Do we introduce it too late? Should we not even be thinking about value? Guide us through here so that we can make the biggest impact on people so that they are chirping up and saying, ooh, aside from just words, and maybe we need to back it up with value, but can you talk to us about that?
It's what I'll say, and to me, the opposite of credible, I just label as dubious. Dubious is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily malevolent or mischievous or anything that is purposely bad at other people. However, it may not be right. What often happens, what many people teach, is they observe what's happening in the marketplace, and then they say, oh, by the way, I did this, so I observed these other things with other people, and now you need to do this too. Like Clubhouse is the best thing, so you got to go there.
Right.
YouTube, you could make a ton of money on YouTube. So what happens is we keep teaching dubious activity and propagating it where it may not make sense to the person you're interacting with. Mm-hmm. So when somebody says what you do, and they ask you what you do, most of the time, they don't care what you do. What they care about is what you can do for them or somebody they know in their network. Mm-hmm. So we've been taught that, and a typical value proposition is, I or we work with this class of customer to deliver this type of service in this way.
So that
that's
they
a standard value proposition.
Right.
Oh, right. Sorry. Thank you for
so that they
adding.
can.
I often forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can deliver this sort of value. Right. Thank you. Right. Appreciate being led by the guide dog. So what happens though, and this really came out of the interviews, when you say to somebody what you do, if the first words out of your mouth is I or we, there's a class of people who, just like there are ad blockers on websites, there's a class of people who are salespeople blockers. And when you start I or we, they're thinking a sales pitch is coming, because a lot of value propositions are really disguised sales pitches.
Right.
And so they turn off. So what happens, you don't start with your value proposition, but you need to know what it is. And what you start with is, and we mentioned this slightly, and I just want to say, you start with what's the playground you play in. Mm-hmm. So if somebody says what you do, and you're a CPop, what happens is you can't just start with, for me, I can't just start with businesses that feel invisible. That does. And so what typically happens, some people might go,
right. There's some,
well, I work with, or I work with, or I serve business that feel. So you don't want to say that either. Okay. Because it once again, you're doing the I or the we. Mm-hmm. And so what I found is saying the following phrase in front of your CPop, and that is, clients that are typically attracted to me, and then you do a 1 second pause. So clients that are typically attracted to me, businesses that feel invisible.
Gotcha.
Because you get the same impact.
Yeah.
And then when you're looking at the person, they're either going to say something or they're going to physically, like the first time I said that to you, you're like, ooh, that's the permission that I then give you my value proposition.
Yeah. I absolutely love that, because I am all about client attraction and not chasing. Right. And it serves my, what I speak about in my coaching and my speaking, and everything that I serve is giving myself more time, and the 5 C's that you and I were talking about in the green room is, all about client attraction, so that I have the ability to have this beautiful life that I want, and I'm not married to and tied to my business. And I absolutely love that, because for me, it's awesome, because when you said it automatically made me go to thinking clients that are attracted to you. I need to start thinking about how can that happen in a millisecond? I don't know, but I immediately started going, oh, well, who are the clients that I could pull in that would be attracted to you? I did not see that as clients that were typically that are typically attracted to me as something that you were even telling me. It was going past me. It was saying, oh, thank you for asking. Clients that are typically attracted to me are these people back here. And so it actually went over my head, not because I'm blonde, but it went over my head. Right. And it put me in a position that said, how can I serve you? Not you were pitching me.
Which, by the way, is credible.
Yeah.
Right? You went into
that.
who you are as a credible human. And that is, you were thinking about your servant leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Jen, here's the coolest thing. And I did this at Secret Knock. I did this in the event afterwards. Is when I talked to somebody, and as soon as I figured out who they were, I'd go, wait a second, I know who to introduce you to.
Yeah.
And I'd walk them by hand to somebody who I had met, say, hey, you should meet because.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm laughing. Here's why I'm laughing. Because I have this habit of doing that very same thing. In fact, I did it there. You can ask James Dentley, because I grabbed a colleague of mine, and I took his hand, and I was walking with him, and I was holding his hand like a couple, right? I said, may I take your hand? He said, yeah, you can take my hand, Jen. And so I grabbed his hand, and we walked over, and we kind of had some fun with it. We were swinging our hands. I go, this is what I do to everybody. And he laughs, and James is there, James Dentley, and he turns around and I go, hey, James. And I said, hey, listen, I really want to introduce you to this person, and here's why. And I think that's important, right? Because a lot of times people look at each other and they're like, I think we're on a blind date, but we don't know why we're here. And I'm laughing because I did that probably 4 or 5 times there. And people were laughing. In fact, I did it with Eric Swanson too. He's like, what are you doing here? In fact, James even said to me, he goes, I'm going to tell your husband you're holding hands with people. And I said, oh, he already knows. He already knows I do this. I love that. Yeah. And I do think that is, a servant heart. I've never really thought of it as credible, but you're right. It's a servant heart. I mean, I tend to come from that place anyway, and thinking, I hope that those of you that are listening, I always say those of you, but those of you, the people that are listening right now, because it's not those of you people who are listening, this was a huge revelation for me. I hope you picked up on that. I hope that you got this. And if you didn't, rewind this thing and go back and listen to this, because the way that's phrased, clients that are typically attracted to me, really does push this beyond it's all about you. It's not. You're talking through the person you're speaking to, as if there's a filter for them, but they're hearing it too. And if it resonates with them.
Let me say it, because there's some people who will resonate with the way you just presented that. Let me give you another way, because we're, as humans, we process stuff in so many different ways.
Yeah.
The intent of those words is to empower you to turn your servant leadership on, right? The intent. So I never talk to the person I'm in front of with the assumption that I need to sell them something.
Right.
what I always think about the person I'm in front of is how can I help you help somebody else? Or what tool can I give you that you can look better in the eyes of other people?
Cred
And so
dust.
that's the intent of that. Cred
Yeah.
dust.
Cred dust. I got it. I got it. That's cred dust. No question. First talk about cred.
And I, by the way, I don't disagree. Your LinkedIn profile could use a little bit of
okay.
Right. and what's there, so you're an amazing person. I mean, you really are an amazing person. And your LinkedIn does not reflect that yet. Right.
Yet.
That would be cred.
Yeah.
Cred are things that you do. The cred that gets me the messed up the most is when I go to a peer publisher's website. So, I mean, as a publisher, I've published over 750 books. So when I go to another publisher's website and they don't put the right copyright at the bottom of the page, right? People say, well, I'm a cobbler. It's a cobbler. No. Sorry. If you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of me as a prospective client, right? It's things like, here's a silly one. Some people who use Mike on Facebook, but Michael on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's cred is very similar to, my best analogy is very similar to plaque on your teeth. If you go to the dentist and you have a little bit of plaque on your teeth, you're not guaranteed a cavity. Keep adding more plaque, the better chance are you're going to have a cavity. Keep adding more cred, the better chance are that you have a cavity in terms of that prospect is not going to look at you.
Yeah, very good. I love that. I love that visual aid. And so here's my next question as we just kind of wrap up our time together. But my next question is there a scalability in credibility? And here's why I'm asking that question, because I just don't feel like it's black and white. I feel that we are human. We do make mistakes. We do have areas that we're not quite perfect in, like my LinkedIn, right? We're just not, now everybody's going to go look at my LinkedIn, but thank you very much. Connect with me anyway. But,
love that.
Maybe there's a good thing in that cred for just for a second, there might be, because everyone's going to go, oh gosh, let's go look at Jen. But is there a scalability in this, where, look, they're not really the level that and you and I've talked about what I do with people is, do they complement or complicate? That doesn't mean, someone could sort of complicate me a little bit, but it's not such a nuisance that whenever I see their name, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. Right. So there's got to be some kind of scalability. Is there some kind of advice you could give us that helps us gauge the people that we are engaged with to say, that level of credibility is just never, ever going to get there versus they're working on it. I can give them some grace. I can maybe support them. Is there anything, or what we could be looking at it ourselves in the mirror?
Well, it's a great question. And I'll answer it. Let me do my best at answering it. You're using the word credibility as a single word, as a single dimension.
Right.
And credibility is 10 skills.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'll give you a real classic example. So many people say, hey, Mitchell, why'd you focus on credibility? Why do you focus on authenticity or integrity? That's more important. And what I say is, with the definition of credibility that came out of the dictionary, one could be authentically a serial killer, or they could have the integrity of always lying. So what's interesting under the categories of being known is the intent and commitment to do the right thing. Now, the right thing is the right thing by you, right? And so what's interesting is, of the 10 skills, there may be some things that person doesn't do well. Like I don't know if there's anyone who's in all 10, right? And we do, by the way, we just are releasing a credibility culture assessment.
Good.
And so
good. I was going to ask you if you had one. I was going to say, where are these 10 things listed? Let's get them.
Yeah.
Okay. Go. And I know we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Check out the TED Talk or check out my book, Credibility Nation. But all of those are readily available. What's interesting is if there's there may be some things that are not as powerful or not as robust. Like, let's say they're great everywhere, but they're just not really vulnerable because that's not how they were taught. Well, now that's something you could look at. That's potentially a trainable skill. That basically means they could be more vulnerable. They recognize that if they say, for instance, like you did, I don't know if my LinkedIn profile is great. Go take a look and let me know. That's getting people to your LinkedIn, and they're going to tell you, they might say, Mitchell's full of doo-doo. It's a great LinkedIn profile. Or they might go, I'd recommend doing the following.
Or there's a spelling error, Jen. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the spelling. I just wrote. I noticed I had a flyer that had the word ghost written as a ghostwriter, had the word ghost written spelled incorrectly. I'm like, that's not credible. That's a lot of credit. So I just fixed it. And I think I think vulnerability is one of those things that there's so many things that are important. Vulnerability, and more importantly, coachability.
Yeah.
And this is probably what you said at the beginning of this conversation is you're a lifelong learner and you want to continually grow and do more things. That's being coachable. Mm-hmm. You want to work with people who are coachable, not that you want to coach them, but that when they interact with you or your clients, or they learn the next best thing, that they're actually going to listen, learn, and apply that to you. And that makes it, so I guess the answer to your question, it's variable based on which of the 10 skills, they need to work on.
Yeah. And I think maybe even what you need, I mean, for example, if someone is in a business that they don't really, it doesn't really matter that person's vulnerable, as long as they're credible in other areas. It could be just their type of business, then that works for them. So I think it sounds like it's weighted, right? It's a weighted average. It's a weighted average based on what your credibility temperature is, or thermometer is, and then based on how you're going to interact with that person. And I think that credibility in one area, for example, like in a funnel builder, building a funnel, the credibility has to be there. You need to communicate with me. I need to know what's going on, and if that's not there, it's not going to work, because I need to make changes quickly, right? That I may be able to be a little more loose in another area with credibility that doesn't have so much of an impact on that credibility for myself. It's not an outward credibility or the integrity, right? It's not affecting my internal integrity. It's affecting my external integrity. So I may have more weight given to that. So I can't wait till you all come out with the assessment. I cannot wait.
Yeah, so we have an assessment. So I'll just say to you, for those that are listening, I'll say for you who is listening, if you're
going to be stuck on that now.
Yeah, I am. If you're curious, reach out. I'll send you the assessment directly. Particularly, I've got only one company that's done it so far. And so I'm looking for 2, 3, 4 different examples, because exactly what you said, John, is what's relevant for one company is going to be maybe significantly different for another.
Yeah.
And what I have to say is it needs to go back to the CPop of the company, mm-hmm. to be able to determine whether or not the working parts, the employees of the company, are actually not echoes, but actually are good reflections of the CPop of the company, right? And so I need 2 or 3 at least examples of companies who are going to be really transparent and open, and I'm happy to do that. And there we probably, I shouldn't say this, we probably wouldn't charge, because we're in experimentation stage and learning. Yeah. So if you're interested, reach out.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Look at that, guys. They'll even help you. That's awesome. All right. So we'll have lots and lots of links. I know you have lots of links that you provided me for, just different listening to, and your TED Talk and your book and all that. I cannot wait to get a copy of your book. And, but I want to know what you'd like to leave with us. If there's a quote, if there's a mantra, if there's one thing you could say to the listener to say, this is how you want to take action. What would you be your first step? Or, don't do this, or make sure you, deploy that. It's up to you. What do you want to leave us with?
I'm going to leave with and I'll share a gift as well, which I'll put in the chat, and I'll say it out loud. What's appropriate is for you to really if 98% of the world cannot articulate their purpose, you should say to yourself, oh my God, what's mine? Mm-hmm. And you should do it in such a way where it's just so easy, 10 words or less.
Right.
And what happens is it just makes it so much easier for those who are around you to share you, right? Because, and it's easy for you. What happens with all this opportunity coming your way, it's a compass that helps guide you. I call this thing called a CPop. It's that compass. It helps you determine what you're doing and where you're going, and it allows other people to see you. And if you do it right, if you take that CPop and you then share it asynchronously, it becomes the magnet that draws people into you. So my gift is going over to Credibility Nation. There's a link that'll be in the notes. It's aha.pub/CPop22Feb. And I will say it again, aha.pub, aha.pub/CPop, CPOP22FEB. That will give you free access to Credibility Nation through the end of February. You could take the CPop course, which is a half-hour course for you to articulate your purpose. And then we have a thread that when you come up with your CPop, you post it there, and then members of the community will comment on it. Awesome. So it's a very cool way for you to see what other people are saying about something that you can articulate in 1 to 3 seconds.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that gift. Thank you. Thank you so much. So you mentioned Credibility Nation. Let's talk about that. How do people get involved in Credibility Nation community?
It's credibilitynation.com. Okay. Feel free to take advantage of the gift. If you are someone who feels like you want to collect a group of people inside of Credibility Nation because there's an area that you focus on, that you want to be credible and you solve a problem, I am looking for village leaders. I'm looking for people who want to run. Think of it as opposed to private Facebook groups where we have all these issues associated with Facebook, having the same thing in Credibility Nation where you're actually running a village. So it could be an entire company, or it could be a particular focus, like not too dissimilar to what you do, Jen. Mm-hmm. And having a community where you get to learn fundamentally about all the mechanics of what is credible, what are the 10 skill sets, all of that. And then you also have a guide. So I'm looking for the village leaders to be the guide. What does it mean in your particular world?
Yeah.
And so we have 50 village leaders, and I'm always looking for people who I could actually, at the moment, I'm actually dubbing them credible because the number's still small, but at some point in time, we'll come up with ways to
criteria. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Do you want to leave us with a quote?
The best thing I could share with you is simply credibility is a journey. It's not a destination.
Yes, that's true. That goes back to my question. Thank you. And I'm on that journey. I'm on LinkedIn. I'll just keep bringing that back up again. I'm sure I'm on that journey in a lot of different areas, but I know that I'm on the journey.
As am I. Yeah.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Mitchell. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And I cannot wait to see you again. I hope I'll see you at Secret Knock in March. I think that's when it is. I can't remember, but I hope to see you again there. We'll have that opportunity to chat. And I know that I'll have you on some of my masterminds as a spotlight. I'd love to have you as a spotlight speaker on one of my masterminds. And
I'd love that.
Hopefully in one of the retreats or the workshops, we can have you come in there and talk about this as well. Since I have so many of those throughout the year, we'd love to have you there and invite you to come in and share your wealth with all of us.
I love that. And what I'll say to you is I do a cred reel. And we turn the interviews into a product and we sell that for $1,000. I'll be happy to give you one of those. So awesome. I would love to have you come and it's 5 questions in 5 minutes.
Okay.
About clarity.
Okay. We're going to go fast. We're going to go fast on that. Thank you again, Mitchell, and everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen. And I hope that we have provided you with something that you can take out into the marketplace, make a difference in your life, make a difference in your business immediately today. As I've always said, when you plan to listen to this podcast, plan to block off at least a half an hour on the backside so that you can implement this to make a difference in your business, in your life, and not make this just simply Netflix if you're watching, or simply a podcast if you're listening, but really have something that will change your life. So thank you again for being on the show with me, Mitchell. And thanks again to everyone for listening in, and we'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to Success to Significance with Jen du Plessis, the #1 podcast for people wanting to give more value and make an impact. Loved this episode? Be sure to subscribe right now at www.jenduplessis.com/S2S for more stories, strategies, and thoughts to help you gain significance and success. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Join us next week for another breakthrough episode. Thank you for listening.